used to be with it. Then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me. It'll happen to you.
Hello and welcome to the What I'm With podcast. I am your host, Tim, and this is my brother Dave. Don't have a clever intro for this one.
I had to come up with my last one off the cuff.
Yeah, I just never got around to it. Well, hey, here today you see before you an array of compact discs.
I do.
And the theme of today's episode is part of our musical journey. So in the past, we've talked about Petra, kind of the beginning of our musical journey.
Sure.
This isn't the next step. There's a step or two in between, but this is what I am calling Tooth and Nail, the beginnings.
I'm looking over what I see here. There's a lot of the correct records. There's one or two that I would say might be missing, but that could be from a lack of ownership.
That would be correct.
Okay.
So what I have here, so to set the stage, around 1996, we start to evolve in our musical taste.
Yeah.
So we've grown up listening to Petra and a lot of Christian rock. Then we got into 90s alternative.
Yeah.
And then we wanted something more, something a little heavier. And that's where Tooth and Nail Records came in. And this, as I recall, is how it started. We went to go see our friend's band. So this would be, at the time, Syrup.
Oh, yeah, I do remember them.
They might have even been called Hesed.
They were Hesed before Syrup. Yep.
So they might have been Hesed. And they put on a show at our youth group. And afterwards, we got to follow the guitarist home. Because we had recently met them and, like, these are really cool guys. Basically, central casting for, like, 90s grunge.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you could find enough denim and flannel and Converse shoes to correctly wardrobe their actual lives.
Yeah. So, and they're, we're probably the youngest one would be 3 or 4 years older than us.
Yeah.
And ranging up to even 10 years older than us. So, generation right before us.
Yeah.
Older guys, really cool.
Like solid Gen Xers. Like we're both kind of on the cusp of millennial.
Yeah.
But these guys were dead.
Yeah.
Middle end of Gen X.
Yeah, for sure. So we get to follow the guitarist home, and I remember we see him in his car, his Buick.
Yeah.
And he's just bopping his head, and we see from behind him. We think it's awesome and hilarious. We're listening to. Do you remember what we're listening to? You probably don't.
I don't.
It was Jesus Freak by DC Talk. So this was the heaviest thing available to us at the time, other than what
Petra.
was on the radio. Yeah. Was that. So we're headbanging along, and he sees us. He's like, we pull up to his house. He's like, oh, what were you listening to?
Yeah.
I'm like, DC Talk, Jesus Freak. And he's like, you just see the light just go out in his eyes a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm dead inside.
Yeah, he was probably listening to Focused, or maybe The Crucified, or maybe Strong Arm.
Maybe.
So we hang out, but I remember having a conversation. And my conversation was like, I like alternative, but I'm looking for heavier stuff. I want music that's like, raw,
Yeah.
And so he hands me a little catalog.
Oh, man.
And catalog is for Tooth and Nail Records. So first, let's just talk about the significance of what Tooth and Nail is.
Yeah.
So this is a record label founded around 93. Starts producing records 94. This time it's 96. So we've got a few years.
Yeah, there's probably 24 or so releases by the time we get around to Tooth and Nail. Maybe 3 dozen. There's not a ton.
Not a ton, but a good variety. A
Yeah.
lot of rock and roll subgenres here. And the significance was, we've talked about this when we talked about Petra, available in the Christian bookstore.
Yes.
So if you had 90s Christian parents, which
we did.
Nate Bergazzi has told us.
Yes. The most Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is you don't get to buy secular music.
Right.
But we can buy Tooth and Nail albums. Anyway, with that in mind, he gives me a little catalog. I have images, which we'll go into.
Oh, man, I'm excited.
Not on me.
Oh.
They will go into the cut. But I wrote down
Okay, sweet.
some stuff. So what it was several folds, so it could fit in the CD.
Right.
And it would list on each, like 8 or so albums on each page, and then give you a little bit of an idea of, hey, this is what the genre is,
right,
and this is what it sounds like.
Right. So if you like this band, you'll like that band kind of stuff.
Right, yeah. So if you think Metallica's cool, but your parents don't let you listen to Metallica because they're Satan music, then you can listen to, whatever. No Metallica-like bands at the time.
Not really, no.
That would come later.
Yeah.
In Tooth and Nail when they formed Solid State Records.
Yeah.
Anyway, Neither here nor there. But I did write a few things down. So, Blenderhead.
I remember Blenderhead vividly.
The artwork, if you can see, it stands out quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Describes them as extra angry punk. I never thought of them as punk.
I can immediately off the top of my head, am I just walking dead? I suffer in a cesspool of my miserable existence. That's lyrics on in a cesspool. Yeah,
So good.
Yeah.
So one of the, I mean, actually, all these are all original albums that I bought.
Oh, you hung on to them.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So these are all mine from that
I still have a
time.
handful, but they're in a crawl space, hopefully not covered in mouse urine.
So,
And Mouse Urine is not a punk band. It's literally. Well, I guess it could be.
It could be.
But it's not one I know of. I'm actually talking about the liquid waste of small rodents.
I've lived through that.
Yeah.
It's not a fun thing to live
It's
through.
not. I mean, technically, all of this kind of material could be cleaned if it was soiled, but I don't want to go through. It's Schrodinger's CD collection. It's in a state of both being and not being covered in mouse urine until I open the box. Then the waveform collapses, and there could actually be mouse urine.
So we had a very similar situation. These were not in enclosed bins; they were in plastic crates.
Okay.
They seemed unscathed, but what we had done is laid all of our CDs out on the basement floor.
Oh,
and
man.
then bleached them all, front and back.
Ugh.
That's a Friends reference.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're all fine. Everything's fine. We're all fine here now.
How are you?
How are you? So they compare Blenderhead to Jawbox, Fugazi, Quicksand. Don't agree.
No.
Maybe Quicksand.
I did have one Quicksand CD way back when. I don't think they overlap. I mean, and frankly, Fugazi of the bands mentioned is so vastly superior.
And also kind of their own thing.
They're very much their own
I think
thing.
anyone would want to be
the
compared
DC sound.
Yes.
Which, I mean, Fugazi was, yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Local band. Yeah. All right. The next one here, The Crucified.
Now, if memory serves, they predate Tooth and Nail.
I believe that is accurate, and they obtained their prior catalog.
Yes,
but they were only on the label for like a year or two.
And I don't want to steal your thunder, but I know that Crucified leads into the Tooth and Nail supergroup.
Yes,
but
yes, at least for me.
No, it is their supergroup. It's a member from successful Tooth and Nail band, so it is.
Oh, that type of super. I thought you meant just super.
Oh, they are just super. They are the best band that Tooth and Nail ever signed.
So,
my favorite, not necessarily objectively the best.
Yeah, it might be. The mid to later part of Tooth and Nail might have. Well, the mid part might have the best they've ever had.
Ooh, we'll see what you think. All right.
Anyway, so The Crucified is old school punk rock. Example: Minor Threat or The Descendants. I think Crucified is actually a little better than Minor Threat. I
didn't really listen to The Descendants enough to make that comparison, but I think they were better than Minor Threat.
Yeah, but yeah, just really the really fast thrashy type sound.
Yeah.
The last example I'm going to take here, because I didn't want to write everything down. Sometime Sunday.
I have that cassette in my Celica.
That's fantastic. So, Sometime Sunday, they describe as lurch rock, whatever that is.
Okay.
Example: Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains.
I think that's actually of the list the most accurate.
Yeah, I would say so. So very much a '90s alternative.
Yeah, with a little more, like a little darker, a little heavier, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you lurch,
Yeah.
Or maybe they mean lurch from
Months?
Monsters. Isn't that like their Frankenstein lurch?
Yeah, something like that.
They didn't have the rights to Mary Shelley at the time. I guess.
Didn't watch the show.
Me either.
So, yeah. So with this catalog in hand, and that's really all I have. Well, I have one other thing for my notes, but it's really not important. So I'm just gonna put that to the side. The very first thing that I bought was a budgetary decision.
Ooh.
And it was the Bloodshed EP.
Oh man!
Now this is a 5-song EP.
Yeah.
And they're just, I guess hardcore, but there's a little bit of like an emotional emo almost, like
right,
before
they're
emo-core became a thing.
This is like a 1995 record, if I remember right.
96, I believe. 96.
Okay.
This is one that I actually had to look up the date because it wasn't printed on the case.
Yeah.
And I had arranged them by date, and it was 95, 96.
That song's in my head already.
Which one?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. So this is my introduction to the one of the hardcore subgenres. And I just remember absolutely loving this record, and it was great because it was only like $5 or $6. And I had to take the CD itself out because
Man, look at how young these guys. These guys were older than us when this came out, and they were babies.
Yeah.
They're babies.
And a fun little thing that I realized years later, and this might be jumping ahead.
Okay.
On the story I'm trying to tell, but this ended up being a sound I was chasing as a person who played in a band. And the final band that we played in together was the closest to that sound. I think better.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not trying to be
not knock.
braggadocious.
I think we had some really talented guys in our band.
Yes,
and
we were there too.
Yeah, we were also there, and we had a really good demo. Like, we had a higher production quality than that. Unfortunately, I wish that was better quality. Cause it's a great record.
It is. So
EP, I guess. But
so it's just kind of funny that this is an introduction into this subgenre, which includes many different things. I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Oh, yay! I'm involved.
And yeah, of course you're involved.
My favorite topic.
Yeah. Just with the note that I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, that one's pretty big.
If you say things about this, I apologize. I will also say things about this. But of what's here, what stands out to you?
Well, it's funny. I've got the three right in front of me. Are very interesting for me. So I'll start with Overcome. I actually got to see Overcome in Western Maryland. They had a show, probably with Zayo, because Zayo toured all the time through Maryland. So I got to go see them live. This was, at the time, my best friend's favorite. So he would play it all the time. I actually also have this on cassette in my Celica. I love that this holds up. Overcome dudes were super cool guys. Got to talk to them after the show. I love that record. Focused was another favorite of mine. I can't remember the name of their other record off the top of my head, but I actually got to see their reunion show in 2001.
Oh, nice.
So I did see Focused and Overcome live. This is probably the biggest pain point of my teens and music. So our father was famously very cool, very lenient. We had a lot of freedoms because we weren't super irresponsible for teenagers.
Caveat.
Yes. We were still, not fully formed humans yet. I got to go to shows. Sometimes I got to go out of state to shows before I was 18 with friends. But for whatever reason, when Strong Arm played, I don't remember if it was in Philly. I think it was.
It was in Pennsylvania. I don't know if it was Philly.
Yeah.
I remember.
It was one of the only times he ever said no to me going to a concert.
Yeah, and I don't understand because we're only just over 2 years apart in age, and I was allowed to go.
Yeah.
And this was actually my first show.
Yeah.
My first of the rock and roll subgenre.
Yeah, I remember I was in 10th grade, so it could have been that, I guess if I was in 10th, you already would have been...
Oh, maybe I was done
maybe you were 18 at that point. Maybe that's why you went.
Maybe. Or at least done with high school.
Or borderline, yeah. So, so I was in 10th grade, and I just remember being so heartbroken because Strong Arm, I don't think Advent of a Miracle had come out yet.
No, not yet.
Which is quite possibly the best hardcore record ever made. But Strong Arm is one of those bands that just broke up before I ever got a chance to see. They did a reunion show. They've done 2 reunion shows, both times in, I think, Atlanta. And I just haven't been able to make it work. Actually, I think they may have even... I don't know if they were one of the ones that famously did a reunion in 2023. Sorry, Dickety 3. But it was the same day that I had an obligation I could not get out of.
Man.
So if they were on that list, I don't recall, but there were a lot on that list that were doing reunions in Dickety 3. Strong Arm is probably the only band that I adored that I never got to see live.
Which, interestingly enough, for me, that would be Focused, and you got to see them live.
There we
so
go.
It's even, but yeah, I got to see Strong Arm and Overcome was an opening act, and then a couple of local bands, so I don't recall.
And then of course Cody Hook. We talked about them for a good bit in our ska episode. which either has aired or will air. And yeah, they're good dudes. We know them. We met them through through the guitar player who introduced us to Tooth and Nail. His cousin was dating one of them, and that's how we got to meet them. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we met them at Purple Door in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at a music festival, and I'm pretty sure he had Jamie tackle you, having never met you before.
That sounds accurate, except I had met him once before.
Oh, okay.
And he was the only one I had met, and I was hanging out at one of their apartments.
Okay.
And I think we were playing a Mortal Kombat game, and just casually mentioned, "Oh, hey, one of the guys from Go to Hook's coming over. Be cool about it."
Oh, okay.
Because I'm younger,
Yeah,
you know.
right. Yeah,
And this
don't be a massive dork.
I'm listening to this
Right.
album, Sumo Surprise. This is so in high school. I had a car, and I would pick up. Well, you would come with me, and we'd go pick up a couple other folks who live nearby to
And
go to
nothing
school.
else happened.
Nothing else ever happened. But my one friend who I would pick up, very much
Patrick?
atheist. Yeah, very much atheist. I'm very much Christian, and it's So he wants to play his music. I want to play my music, and we did. It was fine.
Yeah,
because
it
we
was
got
fine.
along.
Back then, you were allowed to have different opinions.
Yeah, it was
It's
excellent.
wonderful.
So, so I would play this quite a bit. And what's really interesting about this particular album and the follow-up, Banana Man, is they kind of split the album between like serious, straightforward songs
Yeah,
and then
and
like
goofy.
really goofy songs.
Yeah.
So, as a younger person, really love the goofy ones. Now I kind of skip them.
Yeah, likewise. And of course, they went through lineup changes up until, well, gosh, forever, really. I mean, the core three were always there,
Yep.
Jamie, Adam, and Joel. But Conrad was a big part of the first record, and really, I don't think was much more to do with the band after Sumo Surprise. I want to say he's Jamie's cousin.
Yeah, I know there's some familial relation.
And then he went on to do other stuff. I think he moved out of the area. Super sweet dude. I met him a couple times. Then Christian, the bass player, was in it through Banana Man, because I think that was the record where they had Christian got mauled at the zoo as one of their songs. Mauled at the zoo.
I forgot that one. I don't listen to that one as much.
And in the World Is Too Small, Christian actually managed the band I was in Virginia. He managed that for about a year.
Weird.
So, okay, the complete personal anecdote. I don't know if you remember the show that I put on at the mega church that
Yes,
we attended,
yes.
where we got Go Hook to headline, and raised like canned goods to give to homeless shelters, and like had an agreed upon financial amount for the band, and we didn't quite hit that number. Not as many people came out as we were expecting. We still did pretty well,
Yeah.
but Christian took me aside like I was an adult and talked to me about. And I was, I was in high school.
Yeah,
I don't-
16,
yeah,
maybe.
I was at least.
You were young.
I was not. I don't think I was 17. I think I had to have been 16 at that point. Because I don't think I was going to that church at 17 anymore. But anyway, all that to say, he took me, and I legitimately cried, like a child,
Right.
because a grown man was asking me for money that I didn't know how to come up with.
Yeah, you owe us hundreds.
Yeah, and
Money, please.
so the other guys got really mad about that because they were like, "That's that kid we know. Like, be nice to that kid. We know him." Later in life, he wound up being that guy for me, getting my band paid.
Did he make any children cry to get you money?
You know what? What the eye does not see, the heart doesn't have to care about. So I don't know, but the band got paid.
Awesome.
So the guy knew how to get people to pay him.
Good. Yeah, so and they
man.
their style evolved over time to be
Oh, yeah,
more
they're-
rock and roll, and
I love their later stuff. I mean, their
just
their
awesome.
old stuff is super nostalgic, but their later stuff is just really good rock and roll.
Yeah.
I can't. Is this The Blamed? I can't see what
That is The Blamed.
Okay, is that Frail?
That is Frail.
Okay, that's a great record too.
Among my first records, maybe like in the third or fourth.
I've actually been searching for that on cassette, and I have not found it at a price I'm willing to pay.
But it's great. Yeah, just really good driving. I mean, it's somewhere between punk and hardcore. You know.
Yeah.
That is
Oh,
I just had to put that one
man.
out there because it's a compilation album.
Yeah, I remember this art.
So they made 2. This is Helpless Among Friends
Volume
that you're
2,
holding.
yeah.
So there's a volume 1 and 2. I have 2.
Oh, there's a couple band names in here I had forgotten.
Yeah, some that maybe only ever put out an EP or maybe never even joined the label.
Oh man, NIV, No Innocent Victim. Remember that?
I remember.
Yeah, remember that?
A lot of hardcore bands.
My first girlfriend stole my NIV hoodie.
Oh.
Yeah. Back when teenage girlfriends would just take your stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just take it. It's like, oh, I love your hoodie. Mine now.
Right. Isn't it cute?
I mean,
Isn't it cute how I took your
Yeah. And now I wear your hoodie.
Yeah,
And-
because it's cute.
By the way, we're teenagers and gonna break up. It's,
Right.
it's inevitable. We're going to break up. You're not getting that hoodie back.
No, you're not.
I have not seen that hoodie in dickety 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I had a Tooth and Nail hoodie.
Yeah, I remember your tooth and nail hoodie.
Tooth and
The
Nail
classic
beanie.
logo with the black. Yeah.
I had a beanie. I had T-shirts. I was all in on Tooth and Nail. I loved it.
I remember.
So it was.
I mean, we all were, but you had more swag than I did for. Oh no, yeah, I think I had their messenger bag, which was
yeah,
expensive.
you did.
Yeah.
And because it was, like any
No clue where that wound up.
any teenager from any era.
Yeah.
You're kind of wrapping your identity.
I mean, your
in,
personality is what you wear. Like,
Yeah.
It's
So before we get to the biggest one, another big one for me too was this is my first MXPX album.
Yeah,
On the
you
Cover.
started with On the Cover, which was a solid album,
Yeah, so not their
as
most
I recall it.
popular, but they do a lot of covers like Summer of '69, Take on Me, which is probably the best cover that they did.
I would say so. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Then Drum Machine Joy, so they were covering
Another
Tooth
Tooth and Nail band, which of course our friends Goody Hook and Stavesaker did, which was great.
Yep. So this is one I just have a lot of memories of driving around with this one on because, if there were girls that were part of the group, this is more their speed than the hardcore.
Yeah, we definitely, pathetic, lumpy teenage boys that we were, we had to work within our limits. And,
Absolutely. Yeah. Know your limitations and
a lot of that was. I was just recently telling a friend that you once unironically told me not to go chasing waterfalls. Because there was in youth group there was a young lady who was just for the age appropriate was a knockout, and I had the biggest crush in the universe on her, and there was another girl who seemed to be crushing on me that I was ignoring, and you in good brotherly wisdom took me aside and were like, don't go chasing waterfalls, stick to the rivers and lakes that you used to, and totally ignored you.
of course, as you want to do.
Could have probably dated the one who seemed to be into me. Never even held hands with the one I was all about, and no clue what ever happened to her. And
This will, things like this will play into one of the next eras that we're going to talk about another time, which was emo, which is kind of what followed this up, the post-hardcore era, and so a lot of that unrequited stuff, channeling it into
which really seemed to matter in our 20s, and now at this point, I'm just like,
it's like bullets dodged, plural. So, I have to talk about Stavesaker.
Yes, you do.
Stavesaker Friction. So this is their first album. They might have had an EP before, but this is their first full album, and this is the album that for me literally changed everything.
I have no argument with that statement whatsoever.
I don't know how to describe their music without... I mean, you can do comparisons. People have compared them to Tool musically.
I mean, they themselves have said on the record that Tool completely influenced them.
So
that they were blown away by Tool. And
so Tool is, out during the 90s era when we're listening to the alternative radio.
Right. Tool is a very fresh sound, and it kind of changed the landscape.
Yeah, so it's a really straightforward driving rock sound, but vocally very
different vocally. Also, better bass lines than a lot of the other stuff that was out there. I mean, it's just very, as I recall, very, very good musicianship.
Yes. So what I find interesting is getting this album, listening to it all the time. This is when I decide I need to learn how to play guitar.
That's funny. That is the album that I decided I need to learn how to play bass guitar. So, Stavesaker Friction is the only reason I was ever in any bands ever.
Yeah, same.
That's interesting. Same.
So our friend, who we had followed home,
yeah,
was in a band.
Yeah,
band that we listened to. I eventually get this album, and I'm like, I am going to learn to play. I learned to play this album.
Yep.
Every
the first song I learned how to play was, I think, At the Moment.
Okay, yeah.
So,
the more mid-tempo.
Yeah.
Not quite ballad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I learned the album front to back with a few parts that I couldn't play just for a skill issue, but eventually could. And from there, actually kind of, I don't want to say wormed or weaseled, but essentially wormed and weaseled my way into this band because when they're not playing shows, they're doing worship.
So, the bass player of that band was funny with a mean streak.
Yes.
And there was another Tooth and Nail band that had a song called Number One Fan. The lyrics were, "Hey, check me out because I'm with the band. Don't you know I'm your number one fan?" I remember listening to that with him and him saying, "Hey, it's your brother." This is as you were actively weaseling your way into his band.
Yes, 100%.
So,
and then eventually,
I haven't thought about that in years.
Eventually, I'd gone from being a superfluous guitarist. I even recorded one little part on one of their albums, and then also joined them in their worship band thing as well, where they could use extra help, and then just slowly started writing music. So I'm not the most skilled guitarist, but I've always just been able to kind of assemble a song in my head.
Sure.
And just started writing music, and they all liked it. So eventually, kind of just as our friend the guitarist got married and moved away, there was an opening.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, I'm taking over, and became the main songwriter. And yeah, and then that's how my whole little journey as a local band that opened for other local bands.
Yeah, and then I did a couple bands that would always play shows with your bands. My Maryland band, which we actually recently found the first cassette of and was not as bad as I remembered.
Not at all.
And then my most successful band, my Virginia band, where we actually did some local touring and played with a lot of the guys here on this table and other acts as well. Probably the closest I ever got to being signed. We were actually talking to record companies, but the band, of course, as all teenage endeavors do, it fell apart this close to the goal. We were actually supposed to open for Stavesacre, Living Sacrifice, who isn't on here, Blindside, who isn't on here, and maybe one other. I'm blanking. And it was going to be the biggest show of our lives. It was, and then we fell apart, lost our songwriting guitar player, for the right reasons. He needed to go.
Yep.
He absolutely made the right choice. You had offered to learn all the songs and sub in because it would have been a dream for you to open for Stavesacre. And while we were trying to figure that out, the rest of the band imploded. Because we could have made it work. But teenage drama is a powerful force. And I was the oldest person in the band at a wizened 19 years old. So our drummer was still in high school. I think the rest of us, he was class of 2002, I was class of 2000, the rest of the band was either 2000 or 2001, so, he was still, we played his high school talent show.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was our debut.
You're just too darn loud.
We had written our own music. We had a set of originals, and we lost to a guy who covered Weezer.
Of course.
Not even their best song. It was the, I'm blanking on the name now. It's Blue Album, I Want a Girl Who Will Laugh for No One Else. That one, I can't think of the name of the song now. It's a great album.
Yeah.
But, if Weezer had played, we should have lost to Weezer.
Yeah.
But we wrote 5 original, really good, hardcore songs, and because it was hardcore, we didn't win.
Yep. Yeah, and then the band I was in at the same time, it was not teenage drama, it was old man drama, and not even drama. I was the youngest guy.
Yeah.
Well, myself and our friend who later joined.
Right. He was, I think, maybe like 6 months younger than you.
Yeah.
Slightly younger than you.
Just slightly younger.
Yeah.
So we're the young guys, and the older guys, they have jobs, careers. One of them's getting married. The other one is going to get married soon. And so it was just kind of like this weird crossroads.
Yeah.
And we all kind of had the intention of to keep going. We had made our best demo. We had played it for our friend in Virginia, Kyle.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, this is good. This could get you guys signed.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking, we might pursue that. And then it just kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
It was like, you know what? It's just kind of done. And it was, It was a bummer, but it led. I'm not disappointed with my life.
Oh no, not at all.
But it was yeah.
I do get nostalgic about playing, especially when I go see a show. Like I loved being on stage. It was like there was no adrenaline and endorphin, full body dump of that, like being on stage and playing a rock concert, a hardcore concert, whatever it was. Like there was just nothing else like it.
I still remember the first show I did and just being so nervous. Just getting up and just going for it. And in practice, I would be very still, focusing on what I'm doing. And I just remember having stage presence, just getting in a good guitar stance and just, feeling it, going for it. Yeah.
So I remember, so my second band was the first time I was ever the front man. Because I was the bass player in my first band, where one song I sang, but the rest I was the bass player. So my second band, solid musically, and we thought we had some stage presence, and then we opened for another small Christian hardcore band called Hope's Fall, who eventually moved over to Solid State Records. I think they were on Takedown at the time, or something. Was it Takedown?
I don't know.
Something like that. And we see them after our set, which went really well, we thought. We see them get up on stage and hold their guitars out, doing this to make sure they weren't going to hit anything. And then we watched them rip the roof off that place. Like, I mean, they were so good. Like, they were throwing their guitars around. The bass player had a wireless pack. He did backflips, I think. Yeah, I was just like, oh, that's stage presence. I didn't have any. So I stole their stage presence and tried to apply it as best we could.
That I remember them and Zayo.
Zayo had some great. I mean, Russ with his jump kicks.
Yeah, dude
fantastic.
could jump. It looked.
Well, he was a tall, skinny dude.
Yeah,
and he had a good vertical leap.
Yeah,
while holding a. I guess was he guitar? He was guitar.
Yeah. And then the opposite is I got to see Roadside Monument. Not
oh,
included
didn't they play with their backs to the audience?
Backs turned. Yeah. But I loved it.
I mean, Roadside is still, if you haven't listened to them recently, they hold up. Like
I haven't.
Phenomenal.
Very different. They're their own. They are Roadside Monument.
Exist. Yeah, they exist in a silo of their own awesomeness.
Yeah. So in the future, we're gonna have more tooth and nail stuff to discuss, more genres to discuss.
Yeah, and there's actually famously a tooth and nail historical podcast called Labeled. We'll put a link down there if you're interested in kind of more in-depth stuff about tooth and nail. There's more to find there that's less our ramblings and more interviews with those guys.
Yeah, and one thing we'll put up an image I found. One thing I did get also was they would release VHS tapes with music videos.
Oh yes.
I'm gonna say a name that you probably haven't heard in 30 years. Morello's Forest.
Oh my gosh. See, my head was going Ed Begley Jr. or whatever, the guy who was always chasing Brandon Ebel, or vice versa in the interstitials between no, Morello's Forest I hadn't thought of in a million years.
Yeah. It was on the list of the VHS which included a Strong Arm song.
Yes, it did. It from their first record.
Yes.
I don't remember. I'm gonna have to listen to Morello's Forest. I don't think I could. I don't think I could hum a tune off the top of my head.
I couldn't either. It's just they were the standout in that it was a female lead singer.
Yeah.
Most of these are just guys, quartets. Most of them are 4 guys, 5 guys, and playing all these rock subgenres. And they were more alternative, more like
Cranberries kind of.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to them since either, but have an amazing device that has more technology than we used to send man to the moon that fits in my pocket.
Yeah.
I could probably find it. That's all.
Cool.
That's all.
Speaking of sending man to the moon, do you know why we don't use the metric system and everyone else does?
Because we went to the moon.
Because we went to the moon.
That's right.
We will do what we want.
Yeah. Come at us, bro.
Yeah.
Except please don't.
Yeah, please actually don't.
It's been kind of a rough time lately.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that we can handle it right now.
All right. So, we're going to have more of our musical journey as the show continues. Unless we eventually catch up and find that people don't like it, then we'll stop talking about it. But music plays a big part in our lives.
Music, I mean, we played in bands together and separately that would play shows together. It was a lot of, I would say, probably 1999 to 01. No, past 01. 04 maybe. We did a lot. Musically together.
And then just every generation has the soundtrack of their life.
Yeah.
And ours is a really wide
Ours is
and
weird
deep
because,
soundtrack.
again, 90s Christian parents, so most Christian. So we have a lot of Tooth and Nail and other lesser-known Christian bands mingled in with what was airing on 90s alternative radio. So we've got a really weird mix that we could talk about forever because we both absolutely love music.
Yep. And unless we are told by you guys not to talk about it, we probably will. And that is a threat
Talk about Star Wars! No.
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hit the buttons, the like, the subscribe, share it out. Follow links that we send because you're going to hear some music that's actually pretty darn good. Holds up really well.
You know what? I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. We can and should make and link Spotify playlists.
Okay, we can at least link them.
Yeah.
I think they exist.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
We'll do it. We can. We have
the technology. Yeah.
We have that. And
We
the
do.
power.
Yeah.
And the will.
Some of it.
A little bit.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.